and Jake?
Now it's actually hella different. Back in the day, I used to have an extremely strict morning routine where I would wake up, I would do 100 jumping jacks, kind of get the blood going, some breath work stuff, some Wim Hof stuff, then take like my nootropics. That's when back when I know that I'm not that big of a fan anymore of morning routines. I guess at some point in life, you just kind of wake up, do the work. But in the beginning, you kind of do have to wake yourself up, get yourself in state. But after a while, your character just kind of takes over. Because in the beginning, I had extremely bad habits. I used to drink a lot, had a massively bad diet. I there's just I think morning routines are massively important in the beginning to build the habits. But then once you kind of have the habits, you just wake up, get done what you have to get done, and then go on with life. So I'm in a period of life where I don't have a morning routine. Just wake up, go. But back in the day, it was definitely not the case. Yeah.
How do you think you got there though? Were you able to just compound so much that you just made everything so frictionless where you're like, okay, I can just do that now. I don't need to do the grind as much as I used to in the more, routine oriented way.
Yeah, I think the big realization was identity work, where like when you hear guys like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all of these like massive dudes, whenever they get interviewed after a game, whenever they get asked, okay, how do you go to practice every day? How do you work so hard every day? And the answer they almost always come up with is like, it's just who I am. It's my identity. I cannot do it any other way. And then the question I had for myself, because I definitely did not have the best upbringing, so I kind of had to pave my own path as a man. And the thing that inspired me, I remember I was learning history class in school back when I was like 14, 15. I remember hearing about the Spartans and how the actual boys got removed from their mothers at the age of like, I think it was 8 or 12, to then go to battle with the men to kind of forge them into becoming men instead of boys. And I felt like I never had that in my life. So I kind of did that for myself. I started fighting. I was a competition fighter for 4 years, MMA. And I don't know, I just felt like I had to, like, not to sound morbid, but basically kill myself over and over and over again, kind of Jake 1.0, Jake 2.0, Jake 3.0. And at some point, you just kind of level up your identity where you're like, you just work hard because it's all you know. Like, not working hard makes you extremely uncomfortable. Not winning makes you extremely uncomfortable. And I think you only get there after a certain point. Did I answer the question? I feel like I just went on a little rant.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's well, I'll pivot in Maxim too. Like, what do you think? Have you just building on Jake's kind of ending there too? Has your routine changed? Like, what is your routine first of all, and has it changed once you felt like you did Maxim 2.0, 3.0? If you even went in that same direction?
Yeah, I resonate a lot with what Jake just said. I like what you ended with, a little bit of killing yourself. Even though that's like you said, a relatively extreme way to put it, I do kind of feel in my mind, it is kind of how I think about it a little bit. I don't know that it's the first thing on my mind, but it is a part of it. Like, I do want to be someone that I am not. Like, I want to improve. And I talk a lot about books and how they've impacted me a lot. And those books, I have to take the ideas, the truth that's in there, basically make that truth me, absorb those ideas. Like Max, you were saying earlier, excuse me. It's easy to read books and do nothing and not change. You need to make those ideas a part of yourself. And when you do that, you change. And I think it does relate into the routine, because I've recognized that environment, for example, is important. I used to think when I was younger, I think I am a relatively independent person, but I used to think that I wasn't changed by my environment. And the older I got, the more I started realizing, yes, my environment is basically forcing me to focus on certain things. And I am, in a sense, a victim of my environment, but I don't have to be a victim, because I can change my environment. I can be careful. Who am I listening to? Who am I hanging out with? And like my books and things like that are things where I can talk to, in a sense, the wisest people that ever lived. And I know I need that. I'm not innately smart enough to come up with all the great ideas that people have discovered throughout history. I can get those ideas now. And so I love my whiteboard, where I just put my goals there, put the simple truths and principles that I found on it, and I try to put it, like I have a whiteboard right here. I try to put those things on it to take advantage of the fact that my environment affects me. And so I try to read every day, I try to like look at that whiteboard, and if I'm not looking at it, just remind myself what's on there. Remind myself what my goals are, or remind myself what those simple principles are that I've found so far in my life. And yeah, I try to work out every day. Ideally I would work out, read, then start my day. Like work out, read, think, then start my day. But I do have it's not the most structured thing for me. There's been times where a lot of it changed when I started working for myself. When I was working at a job and I had to show up there at 8 or whatever, I would have to do everything in the morning. And so it was kind of forced. If it was going to get done, it'd have to be done then. And that worked amazing. Like, even for me, I just set myself, I just got to read like 10 pages. And it's amazing how those little, like just setting a goal of 10 pages a day over time adds up. And it did take a while. It wasn't like I read the book and then I was this new person right away. Slowly over time, those books started affecting me. And I can just tell, like, who am I now versus who was I? And there is a difference. And like that little bit of structure and that force, like if these things are important, make sure they're a part of my life, was not, from what I can tell now, and in my experience, was not a waste of time and was very worth it.
Just touch on victim too. I hate that word so much. Just and this is I'm clarifying it within context. Like obviously there are victims out there of all these crimes and all these things, but just the victim mentality is what I'm talking about. And just if you can just I've tried so hard to just get that out. Even if I feel like someone's wronged me, I never consider myself a victim. I never like give them that power, right? I never give someone else that, because you're giving it away. If you whatever happens, you know, someone says something bad to you, something does something bad to you, whatever it is, and you're offended, or, you know, something happens because of it. Of course, there's exceptions, but generally speaking, it only means something to you. It only hurts you. It only does these things because you give it meaning. If I call Maxim, oh, you look like a toaster. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's nothing about me that looks like that doesn't even make any sense. But, you know, if I tell Jake, oh, you're a fake athlete or something, or, oh, you just do all this stuff for, you know, just to show off or whatever. So that's something where, you know, you may think if he would get offended by that comment, for example, it would be because maybe deep down he thinks, oh, am I? Like there's something to it. There's something you can hang on to, and then you can think about it otherwise. But that's all considering that Jake even cares what my opinion is, who I am, you know, all, like different levels of relationships and stuff like that. But the point is, if you give someone power over you, they're going to have power over you. They're going to be able to affect you like that. And not giving them that has been one of the best things you can do. So just the victim part is just, it's not productive. It's not, you know, I guess the only thing you could do with it is if you see something happen like that, you can make yourself better. And these other 10,000 ways we could talk about, but just once you identify as that, like the identity part, once you identify, oh, I'm a victim of this thing that happened, then you give other things power. You take away your own power in that situation. Yes, you do. And so easy to do. So yeah, it's so daily routines. Oh, I'll just go with mine real quick too. I'm actually pretty routine oriented. I mean, every day I take a run. I do exercise of some sort. If I feel like I'm going to cheat on my diet in some way, then I always make up for it. You know, I take an extra run. Oh, I'm going to have some pastry today. Oh, that's an extra run in the evening. I gotta balance it out. Not always perfect, but yeah, exercise routine in the morning. Usually morning time is my heads down, deep work time. I'm like creating, I'm producing, I'm reading, I'm consuming of some sort, also taking care of the family, have responsibilities on that side too. But I always set things up. And luckily my family structure works this way too. I can have dedicated time to pump stuff out, to get stuff done, to, you know, work on either creating content or work on my day job or whatever it is. I have a very flexible job, which makes this whole system even more beautiful. So it just enables me to just be very effective and produce things every day. And I think it rubs off. Even the people I'm around me, it really is contagious when you see people, when the people around you are producing and operating at a high level. It's inspirational. It inspires me when I see people who are doing, cranking out really good stuff. I'm like, whoa, it helps me think, hey, that's the bar. Maybe I need to, if I want to have what they have or do what they do, I need to step it up and stuff. So anyways, very routine oriented. And yeah, vitamins, exercise, mental health is your wealth, and you don't have physical health without your mental wealth. We'll get into that as well, but just taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, gratitude, being thankful, and just eating good, all that type of stuff just leads into me being able to be effective as much as I can every day. And which also kind of is, there's the other side too. It's really hard for me to relax. And not just, okay, I can relax on the couch. I can take some, I can watch some TV. I can do something like that, get into a show, but actually taking a vacation, that's hard for me. It is. I love that you say that. It's so, same for me. I hate it. How do you, when there's an opportunity to take time off, what do you do? Max can go first. How does it, are you even able to take advantage of it?
I mean, yeah, it's really hard. I do not like vacations. Like if there's some way that the vacation, I can make it productive, that's fine. But I get stressed, honestly. Like if I have to go somewhere, like even just Christmas, it's like, like I'm not moving forward, and it is hard for me.
I prep beforehand for Christmas, for example. If you're traveling or seeing family, I'm like, all right, let me blaze as much as I can beforehand. I'll feel better once I'm there. But that's just one way I look at it.
Yeah, I do have a hard time with that. And I feel unusual in that aspect, though. It's interesting hearing you guys kind of had both said something similar. Yeah, I don't know. I take so much satisfaction and peace in pursuing things that whenever I'm forced to not do that, it is hard for me. And I love what I do. So it's like, it's interesting. I do think there's something to be said for breaks. I'm a huge fan of like what people call meditation. I think sometimes that word strikes people the wrong way, but basically just clearing your mind is very productive. You can get so caught up in the moment that you forget the big picture. Like you were saying, Max, your problems can kind of consume you, and you're not able to be over your problems. Your problems are you, and clearing your mind is something that ideally I do every day as well. And I'm continually impressed with the creative thoughts that come into my mind when I ironically clear my mind. When I for me, it looks like just focusing on breathing, try to just focus on that one thing, and then thoughts come into my head and I basically just tell them like, yes, you need to answer this email. Yes, you have this problem you don't have figured out, but I basically, yes, that is a problem. Get it out of my mind and get it out of my mind. And all of a sudden, almost every time it's like, oh, I have this epiphany, like, oh, this is a great idea. Now I can like refine it, make sure it's actually a good idea. But a lot of bigger picture, the fundamental like core ideas come into my mind when I actually clear my mind, and that kind of looks like a break. And I think it's extremely valuable for me. It's one of the most important things. I think the books are awesome because they give me the new ideas that I think influence that creative idea, but they're both needed. The active environmental input and then the thinking process are both needed. And I think sometimes the thinking for me is a break, like intentionally stopping, clearing everything out. And I've definitely found that's been really valuable to me.
Jake, where do most of your ideas come from? Do they come from like actual like meditation, sitting down, like and doing, I guess, the traditional way? Do they come from the shower, like massage table? You're laying there for an hour. You just get to, click. Like, it's not about not having ideas. It's about having space for such ideas. So to me, that's how I've made use of it. At least I know everyone has a different way, but yeah, how do you come up with your best stuff, Jake?
Yep, that's a great question. So, fun story. Back when I think my mom told me this story. Back when I was 14, I actually wanted to become a Shaolin monk, which is why I had a Japanese tattoo and I meditate for like an hour a day and did a lot of this like Kung Fu practice and stuff like that, which is where I kind of first learned about meditation. Like for 6 months straight, I meditated for an hour a day. So I think meditation is massively important. And at some point, meditation just kind of becomes a part of you. Like one of the big ideas, because I went through most of Tony Robbins' stuff, and a big idea that I still remember to this day is he calls it NET, which is no extra time. And I'll kind of give an example. Like back when I was a software engineer, my software job was like a 4-hour kind of travel thing away. So I would wake up 5 a.m., 6 a.m., gym, 7 a.m., go to the train to the city, train to bike, to bus, to office. And then I would come back. And that's when I learned about this no extra time thing. So on the actual train, I would actually be studying coding and actually doing coding exercises. And then in the train station, I would actually go ahead and rope skip and do my fight training. And then when I go back home, I would actually... So I look like a complete psychopath. You can imagine a guy having a full-on rope skipping workout in the middle of a crowded train station just because I didn't have any other option. And then after kind of finishing my work, I would go train MMA. And then I would fall asleep like watching coding tutorials. So at some point, like I think the first person I kind of heard say it where it was okay for me to kind of act that way was Grant Cardone. And he was like one of the first guys I ever listened to. And he was the one that made me feel okay being so obsessive. Because I've always had this question, like, is it normal to be this obsessed with something? Like the amount of times I fell asleep on my laptop just working and trying to code and watching coding tutorials at like 2 a.m. and just falling asleep from exhaustion. I always felt weird about it because I was always like the only guy that wanted to work that hard in my immediate environment. My parents, not my family, not my parents, not my friends. And I was like, the moment I heard Grant Cardone say that, the way he put it is like obsession is required. And I feel like everybody kind of has that period in their life. I don't remember where I heard it, but I think it's from the movie 300, where they called it shock therapy. So I feel like I went through a couple stages in my life where I purposely put myself into shock therapy situations, whether that was door-to-door sale, cold calling, doing that stuff, like training in the actual train station, then MMA, and then competition. I kind of paving the path to like the character traits that I wanted to have. And I like this idea of shock therapy because I put out this tweet today where even though I'm doing extremely well in possibly every possible metric in life, I still feel like I'm underperforming my potential. And even now, because it's so ingrained in me, it's hard for me to even fall asleep knowing I'm underperforming. Like last night, I lay in bed for like 2 hours just kind of thinking, what can I do more? What can I do more? And it feels very unhealthy, but the moment you kind of come to terms where like obsession is required and all of these massively, massively successful people you look at are obsessed. They're the black sheep in their entire environment. And one of the things I love about the internet is like, I like saying this thing where borders are a psyop. Your country is not the only place that exists. On the internet, you can connect with people who have the exact same mindset as you. And I think that's massively important because it normalizes this idea of obsession. Like, dude, like there are kids freaking 19 years old making 250 grand a month. That completely breaks your worldview. And you're like, holy crap, like there's more out there.